What's up, physios? Welcome to another episode of the PHYSIOMission podcast. On today's episode, I have Aaron LeBauer. Hopefully at this point in time, you guys have heard of Aaron LeBauer. If you haven't, then you will meet him now. He is essentially one of the pioneers in our field in the cash-based practice world. If you are looking to open up your own private practice, if that is your physio mission, then Aaron LeBauer is one of your mentors. He is a wealth of knowledge in this field. He teaches on the topic. He has his own cash-based practice he's been able to scale. Today we're going to talk about how he got started, how he got he was told no by his CI that it would not work, and he just did it anyway, and how he was able to make a cash-based practice successful. We're going to talk about some marketing hacks and really how your mindset needs to be in order to open a cash-based practice. Now, I do apologize in advance. This interview was done in the hallway at SSPT, and it was banging. There was a lot of stuff going on. It was pretty noisy. So I tried to clean up the audio as much as I could, but the content is really good. So please enjoy. Hello and welcome to the PHYSIOMission podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jared Cooper. This podcast is dedicated to helping young, aspiring physical therapists navigate the muddy waters of what has now become our profession. I want to help you maximize your impact, your income, and your freedom. Throughout this podcast, I'll be interviewing mentors, clinical gurus, and successful business owners who have paved the way and shown us how it's done. Along the way, I'll also be sharing with you some secrets to my own success and how I started a private practice from scratch, developed an amazing team, and built and grew it to a 7-figure business. So without further ado, let our mission begin. I have with me today the amazing Aaron LeBauer. Aaron, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Jared, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I came across your work many years ago. I think you and I had a bit more hair back then. I said, this is a guy who was taking physical therapy and doing something with it that we didn't think in school was really possible. And now you've not only created books and podcasts and programs, but you've helped start a movement called the cash-based practice. I want to first start with your origin story. How did you get to the point where you decided to go the cash route?
So the quick 2-minute version, I was a massage therapist because I grew up in a medical family, and my dad, as a cardiologist, always instilled in me, do what's right for the patient above all else. So I became a massage therapist because I couldn't get through orgo because I was like, I don't want to dedicate my time for that. But I got to a point where I decided that I wasn't getting the results I wanted with people. My wife pushed me to go to PT school. In PT school, on my first clinical rotation, I saw 43 patients one day. So I've been seeing one person an hour, and mostly people who've already been to PT, chiropractic, massage, acupuncture, they hadn't been resolved. I was the first person that was able to touch them where they hurt and help them. I saw 43 patients one day, and I was like, I can't do this model when I graduate. I got to figure something else out.
So you knew it pretty early on that you were not even going to mess with the classic model of seeing 3 patients an hour?
No, I couldn't. That was month 13. So we did a full year of didactic, everything. Month 13, first 2 months of our second year, it's this clinical rotation in outpatient orthopedic practice. And yeah, I was like, I got to figure something else out. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was like, people will pay at least this is what they're paying me for PT. And my CI was like, no way. No one's going to pay more than their copay for physical therapy. At that time was anywhere between $10 and $35.
Now for you, was it a blessing or a curse for you that you got a no that early?
Looking back, it was a blessing, absolutely, because I proved him wrong,
Right. Now, did you know you proved him wrong? Did you have that fire in your belly to say, fuck you, I'm going to do it my way anyway? Or was there a moment of well, maybe this isn't right, maybe I can't do this?
I did. I said, Frank, let's check in 3 years,
Good for you.
Yeah, I was like, listen, and I haven't heard from him, so... I don't know what he's doing, but that's the thing is I knew there was some better way, and I wasn't in it this far for nothing, to give up and say, no, I'm just going to see one person every 15 minutes, because that's what I was doing even as a student. And, it just didn't make sense to me that people wouldn't pay an extra $10 an hour to see me, Dr. LeBauer, instead of Aaron the massage therapist or John the massage therapist. But everyone told me it wasn't going to happen. There's no way it's possible.
Right. Yeah, you and I have sort of a similar story. We started out in an allied health profession and made our way into physical therapy, and then soon found out that what people were paying for individuals who didn't have a degree was twice as much, in some cases 3 times as much, as what they're willing to pay for what we have now, which is our doctorate, which in many ways is disheartening, but you found a way around it.
Yeah, and I've paid $300 for a massage before. And there are people like, oh, I wouldn't even pay $50 for PT myself.
How long was the massage?
It was a 90-minute massage.
Right, but obviously, you saw value in whatever you were getting in that moment, and you decided that's what's right for you, and that's the same sort of thing that you do with your patients. You provide value. So let's keep going. So you got to the point where you knew that you needed to do something different, but what gave you the courage to pull the trigger, move forward, and how did you know what that looked like in terms of like the size, the shape, and how are you actually going to do it?
Gosh, that's a great question. Well, I was charging $85 an hour for massage in PT school, and all I did was I graduated and added $10. I was like, people pay $95 because I'm Dr. LeBauer now. And what gave me the courage was I didn't want to, like, it was either that or go back to doing massage. And I was 3 years in. I was like, there's no way I'm not just going to go back and do that. I've got to do this other thing. And it was just like there was no other option, really. I mean, I could go get a job somewhere and suck. It would suck.
Yeah. So what after that? Like, what is the first thing that you did? In other words, what is the first step that you took to actually start to actualize and implement what it is that you wanted to create?
Well, the first thing I had to do was make a decision that that's what I wanted to do. When it got to the end, and I prepped and built and did all my marketing and planning and everything about 6 months before I graduated. And then the first thing was I had to get licensed. I had to get my insurance. I had to get everything set up so I could actually take a payment from someone and provide a treatment. Let
me be clear here for the listeners that maybe didn't catch that. How many months before you opened your practice did you start the process of marketing? You said 6, right?
No, I've started the planning process.
The planning process, 6 months. Because I think that what a lot of practitioners are doing now, what a lot of PTs are doing now, is they get very headstrong with the concept of acting fast. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that there is a process that happens before the action, which in and of itself is action, right, which is the planning stage and everything. So that, and I just had an interview with Christine Walker, and we talked about this a little bit, about getting the largest wrench possible before you actually start trying to pry the door open. Just don't grab the smallest wrench around, right? Try to think about what is the highest leverage move I can make right now. And by doing that, your whatever action you do take actually has a larger impact on your momentum and moving you forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And then at some point in time, you decided, okay, cash-based practice was working for you. You were seeing patients, but then you wanted to go to the next level, which was to bring other people on. And I know that one of the biggest fears a lot of people have about a cash-based practice, I guess you could call it a struggle, is, yeah, but if I'm the guy that they want to come see, and I bring somebody on, how do I, quote unquote, if that's the wrong word, right, but convince them, right? Because of course you can't do that, but that's the way the question comes out. How do I convince them to go see my partner or whoever else is there, right? How do you scale that from a solopreneur practice to something that's actually a business?
First, you recognize that you're not that special. Like, I'm good, I'm a great therapist, and develop a really good connection with my patients, but I'm not that special because there's 100,000 other physical therapists that are probably close to as good as me, and there's some that are better. And then, as the owner, as the primary therapist, I have to build up the other PTs. I say basically, Ms. Jones, for what's going on with you now, what I'd like you to do is go see Dr. Shelton because he's the expert in blank that you need right now.
Where does that conversation with them start? Does it start on the first phone call? Is it on your website? Does it start when they come into the practice?
Well, that will start if I'm treating a patient and I'm getting them off my schedule to someone else. So that'll happen in the end of one of the treatment sessions.
Okay.
In the beginning, it's not about who do you want to see. It's about we can see you for your problem and help you, and we just schedule you. Okay, you're scheduled with Dr. Shelton or Dr. Herzog. It's just, and they might say, oh, but I'm here to see Dr. LeBauer. Well, and then it's Dr. LeBauer is not seeing patients. These are the two people he's trained and brought on, and et cetera.
Right, and you not only started to bring people on, you also created a system. And I talk a lot about systems. My PHYSIOSecrets thing has the phrase Physio Framework is a system for the clinical side of it, and you've created a system for the practice side of it, the business side of it. How important is it for a new therapist, first of all, to create a system, number one, right? And by the way, if you're listening right now and you have not watched one of Aaron's webinars, you need to go watch it, and you need to start thinking about actually purchasing his system, because there's only 3 systems out there that I actually would ever recommend to anybody, and yours is in that top 3.
Thank you very much.
So let's say that they're thinking about, how do I start to implement something that is a process, something that's systematic in my practice, because people hear the word system but don't have any freaking clue what the word actually means or what it looks like.
Right.
So could you speak to that a little bit?
Yep. First off, you need to build a system before you think you actually need it, okay? Because that's when you have time to create it. When you need it, you don't have time to create it because you're swamped. And a system is something that helps you replicate and automate something you do on a regular basis. So how do we set up the treatment rooms? How do we answer the phones? How do we get people to reschedule? how do we reply to people who engage on our website? How do we do our marketing? They're all systemized, and a lot of them are using software that helps automate it, or the staff is trained to automate things, so there's checklists.
Now, are those checklists created by the staff members themselves, or is that something that, because I know Alex Sharfin, one of his big things is doing a time study, right? Write down everything you do every 15 minutes. Right. In a sense, that can turn into a checklist, right? That can turn into, okay, what are all the things? This is how we set our checklist. I mean, we have systems for every freaking thing, partly due to, because when I opened my practice, I knew of you, and I knew of some of the other people that are saying, build a fucking system. So I was like, okay, I'm going to open a practice. This is my second business. The first one didn't have systems. Yeah. This one's going to have systems. And let me tell you, it's made life a crap load easier, because if we want to change something, we don't go and talk to the employee. We just change the system.
Right.
And we just train the employee on the system, and if that employee it changes or whatever, we just teach the next employee the system. But what is your process for actually figuring out the actual system? Do you have the employee write down what they think every step is? Do you look at it as from bird's eye view and say, okay, I think these are the steps that need to happen? What can the person who's starting out, what are some steps they can do to actually create systems for themselves?
Well, like you said, just start writing down things. So figure out what are the things I do every day. So you write down the tasks, and then what's every step of the task. I started because I had to create them myself, because I was the employee. So I had to create them myself, and now my employees are in charge of creating them. So we have these alien abduction manuals. So it's in case the aliens plucked you out, and rather than in case I fire you,
I might steal that.
In case I fire you.
It sounds better than in case I fire you. Right. This is the in case I fire you manual.
Right. This is how to train your replacement. This is the alien abduction manual, and I'll give credit to my coach Bedros Koulian, who uses those, and he shared that term with me. And it's not a non-threatening way, but it's their responsibility to update it every 6 months, to go through, okay, you're doing something new, write it down. We don't just use paper, we use Excel spreadsheets.
Okay.
And we link to videos that are in our Google Drive and that kind of thing.
Right, and now to complete the journey, the final step for you was then teaching other people, other physical therapists, how to do what it is that you do. How's that been going? What have you, and what more importantly, I'd actually want to know what you've learned, you've learned yourself in the process.
Right. So it's going great. It started when people asked me, Aaron, how do I do X, Y, and Z? And I was like, here's how you do it. And they're like, oh, can I pay you for that? And I was like, you want to pay me for that? That was like 6 years or 7 years ago. In the process of teaching people, especially with sales, I'm really good at sales now because I've been teaching sales to people. And it's because sales is something that physical therapists really need to learn. And we think we're selling a dollar amount of time, but what we're really doing is selling something else. And I'm teaching that, and I've gotten really good at sales because I teach it all the time because it's a gap.
Right.
Yeah. And I learned a lot about the mindset of people in our profession and where they are and what our profession really needs.
What does our profession really need?
Gosh, we need empowered to feel like we're decision makers. And people get out of school and they feel like they don't know enough. They feel like they can't make a decision on behalf of their patients or for themselves, and they feel like they're underwater in debt because they can't afford to do anything because their job is only going to pay them $50,000 to $70,000 a year.
What do you think drives number two? In fact, they don't feel like they have the ability or the power to make decisions on behalf of their patients.
Confidence. I think it's confidence, and I don't know that they're getting the confidence getting out of school when they should finish and feel confident. Like chiropractors finish and they're like...
that is the model that I use also. It's like, look, the chiros are fucking coming out going, okay, I don't need you, I'm going to open up a shop. Yeah. And they do it with confidence, and they have confidence early on in their career that PTs don't get. And I've been really trying to wrap my head around, what are they doing in their school differently that we're not doing? I've never been to chiro school, so I don't really know, but there's something in the product that's very different between chiro and PT in the mindset that they get when they're out.
Right, and it may be why, where PT came from, we were physicians extenders, and so people with less drive to be autonomous are coming in, and they're a little bit more comfortable being told what to do, because chiropractors exist outside or parallel to the medical system, and we exist in, so they have to go in and be like, all right, I'm going to buck the system, and so I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z. So do I believe in chiropractic? No, but I'm probably more like a chiropractor than a traditional physical therapist.
In your mindset. And so going back to the question, how have you grown through the process of teaching?
Yeah, Well, I've seen what's possible, and I see that there's no limit. And when there's no limit, when the ceiling has a holes through it that you know you can crawl through, then it's a lot easier to keep growing and growing and growing. I mean, it's...
And how much of what you teach, to wrap it up, is the mindset shift piece versus the actual tactics? Because everyone goes in wanting to learn the tactics. Right. They want to know the how, but a lot of people, they don't implement because they don't know the why or the what. Yeah, and how much is that for you, the importance between the two?
Well, I have a whole course, like my course, the Cash PT Blueprint, module number 2 is mindset. My book, a whole big chapter on mindset, because it's important, because if you don't have the mindset, the primary care physical therapist mindset, the abundance mindset, the sales mindset, if you don't have these things, then you can't implement any of the tactics and strategies. I mean, you could try, you won't be successful.
Yeah, I love that. So how do my listeners get a hold of your educational material? Where do they start? What's the first thing that they need? And then, and how do they get into the program?
Right. The easiest place to find me is aaronlebauer.com, or Twitter, Facebook, Instagram @AaronLeBauer. If you're looking to start a practice, I've got a great free checklist. It's the Cash PT checklist. And if you already have a business and you're looking for some ideas on how to get more patients, I've got a 35 marketing strategies free download. You've got all the best marketing strategies I use, ones I don't use that I know I should, but I don't even have time to implement myself because I'm busy coaching and not building my business.
That's on your website.
It's on the website.
And then what's the actual name of the program? Is that the Cash PT Blueprint?
The Cash PT Blueprint is my main course on how to grow a cash-based physical therapy practice. It includes the mindset, the tactics, the whole compliance piece, and marketing, and access to a ton of documents.
And it literally is a blueprint, right?
Yeah.
Which, as you and I both know, is it literally is something that you can literally walk through step by step and not get lost in the weeds trying to figure out what to do. And I love that concept of a blueprint, and I am glad that you took the experience that you had and turned it into something that other people can just follow in your footsteps, execute, and see what's possible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the PHYSIOMission podcast. If you haven't done so already, head over to PHYSIOSecrets.com and get your first masterclass for free. If you like this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. This is Dr. Cooper signing off. Until next time, fuel your passion, believe in your mission, and let nothing stand in your way.